And you're welcome back to the Pulse. Now, the Ghana Enterprises Agency says it is scaling up its activities to create more job opportunities and skills for the teeming youth in this, country as part of its fulfillment of its mandate. We're fortunate to be joined now by the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Enterprises Agency, Kosi Yankah. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here on the Pulse.
Thanks for inviting us.
We heard of that ambitious policy plan by government through the YouStart project to create more jobs and to provide skills for the youth so they can also create their own jobs, be employers at least.
Yes.
How are you going about effecting the idea that was birthed through the YouStart project?
Sure. So I think one of the beauties of supporting private sector is to come up with innovative ways of helping and ensuring that we're building a strong and sustainable private sector to be able to carry the country and support the economy. So when the president really thought about the YouStart intervention, the goal as much as possible was to figure out a way to actually implement it. So the vision was then devised into a policy, which then became what we are working on now. And how are we trying to achieve that goal? And why was that policy even important? I think the idea behind it is that, as you can see, the population statistics is very clear on the numbers of the youth and the numbers we are seeing not only in Ghana but in Africa as a whole. Right. But then to be able to support Ghana, we needed to hone in on what it would take to be able to build our youth population, to turn them not into only employees, but employers as well. Because the world has changed drastically in the past few years. And to be able to achieve that, we needed to come up with innovative ways. We needed to engage the youth. We needed to build a program such as the YouStart, where we are building entrepreneurship skills of the youth and where we are providing them with the needed support, the knowledge, the tools, and then also the support that would allow them to start and implement their own business.
The policy itself has been tagged as ambitious. Do we have the funding for it?
I think ambition is important, right? Because if I said 1,000 people, I would have achieved that already, right? And so for me and my team, what is really important is that in our interventions and the work we do, our goal as much as possible is to overachieve. And so we set ambitious targets, and the president has been very ambitious in it. And it's been very ambitious because your numbers show that you have to be ambitious to achieve this. I mean, if you remember when Kamala Harris came, she said that the average youth of Africans is 19 years old, right? And so if you're not ambitious as a nation or as a government or as an agency such as the Ghana Enterprises Agency, then you're just going to scratch the surface of it. I mean, bear in mind that government's intervention is not only looking at only government achieving that goal. There's private sector, there's government, there are various stakeholders who play a role in this and also do what they can. So for us at Ghana Enterprises Agency, we're also doing what we can do to be able to help government achieve the goals that they've set for themselves. So ambition is good.
I see. The big question as to whether or not the policy measure is taking off. Have you taken off? How is that impacting actively on the lives of the youth across the country?
So we started implementation. We did a pilot phase last year. You know, the government announced it. Last year was the pilot phase of the intervention in all the regions, just to see how the trainings would go, how the intervention and the support would go if we were to give support. Then the next leg of it was really looking at our funding sources for some of the phases we were working on. So the first phase we are working on is under a project called the Ghana Jobs and Skills Project.
Okay, so this will still be a component of the YouStart project?
Yes, this is a component of the YouStart project, and it's a phase of the YouStart project. We've decided to implement in phases to ensure that we're able to achieve and really follow up on our KPIs and see what it is that we are doing. So what we've done in the first phase now is we opened the portals in November. We opened it for 6 weeks. By the end of the year, people had brought in their applications. We had gone onto the field the first quarter of this year to do our readiness assessment to make sure people were ready and that the people who applied are really willing to start something. Then we did the readiness assessment and the needs assessment to really, strengthen the training programs that we want to implement. And that for us really, we thankfully has been very successful. Last week, we started the rollout of the program in every region in this nation. And so every capital city had a training program for us to start rolling out the intervention, and they were successful. We're consolidating that as well and looking at how best to also revise it so that next week in every region in this nation we'll have a training program going on.
How are you supporting the youth? And that question has come up because we've seen numerous interventions through the YEA. A number of initiatives have been done in the past. Are you giving cash to the youth to start their own businesses, or how are you approaching this time around?
So we approach it differently, and I think that's the beauty of the YouStart intervention, is the approach. So under YEA, the focus is on employment. So you're becoming an employee, right? Under the work we do, under the YouStart intervention, and when you actually go deep into what Ghana Enterprises Agency set out to do, our focus is to support the micro, small, and medium enterprises and really build that entrepreneurial nation, right? And so when you're looking at an MSME development as the backbone, then you're not looking at employees, you're looking at those who are going to create the next generation micro, small, and medium enterprises, right? And so as much as possible, the goal and the focus on that is how do we create people who employ, who start their businesses. So this is totally different from existing. We've also looked at a different catchment as well. Usually we do programs and we focus on, as I said, existing businesses.
Right.
We also go do interventions, we focus on the youth who are really maybe coming out of university. Now we're saying that because the YouStart is a nationwide intervention, how do we look at people who went to BEC, left, have a skill set, have gone through apprenticeship training, but they don't even know how to turn that into a business? And how do we come in to provide that support where they have the entrepreneurial understanding and the knowledge to be able to kickstart or continue and grow what they have that is existing? And so for the YouStart intervention, the focus is not only on access to funding, because we believe that if you only look at access to funding, then you're leaving out a huge chunk of the challenge. Because one of the major challenges for those starting up or those who have businesses is access to information and even the technical know-how, so technical assistance. So we're providing that technical assistance, we're providing the support, we're providing mentoring and coaching through the interventions we have and hand-holding, we're ensuring that
you agree that capital plays a crucial factor in the startup world. So
I agree to that. I'm not disagreeing. I'm actually going to get there, where you realize that yes, access to finance is part of the support that we provide for the beneficiaries as well. But it's also important to note that I can give you all the money in this world, but if you don't have the know-how, you will still fail, even if money is. So it's a chicken and hen game, right? Chicken and egg game. So which comes before the other? So if you only look at the intervention only from a financial point of view, then you set yourself up for failure immediately. And then you also then have a whole chunk of people saying, I only want money, which is not what the goal of the work is. The goal really...
But when the policy measure was announced as YouStart by the finance minister, the expectation was, well, there's some money there ready for the youth to go in for once you assess the fund, and you can create your own job.
So I think that I haven't disputed that in my conversation.
Right.
I think my conversation has been to give you the idea and
the genesis and where
what it is. It's an ecosystem. It's a 360-degree support. So the support comes in various ways. So I can't tell you that we're only looking at only financing or I'm only doing technical assistance, right? It's a combination. Yes, the government said it. If there was no funding, I wouldn't roll out the implementation. There's funding. That's why we've rolled out implementation. Now, what I want to make clear is that you can't get funding alone without the training. The training is needed. It's part of the program. It's part of the intervention because it helps you as an institution to support with monitoring and evaluation. It helps you to be able to also seek and pull out the chaff from the meal itself. So all of that is important. These are all mechanics that if you're designing interventions for policy implementation, you need to think about and look at. If you keep saying you're throwing funds at people and throwing funds at businesses alone, you're not going to achieve anything.
Finally, what's the message to the youth as to how they can prepare and participate in this policy as you roll it along?
Yes, so I think that for the youth, really our focus is only the youth in this intervention, and we've made sure that those who are above the youth, we don't even include them in this intervention. That doesn't mean we don't have other interventions for other subsets. We have all of that. But as much as possible, this is the focus. And my advice to them is that they should apply. We have instances where people are hesitant because they don't know if they can apply or if they're going to get in. But as much as possible, my advice to them is go ahead and apply and actually take it serious and be present in the trainings, because that is what will determine what other support we can give you. And so we're there to support the youth. I think this is a brilliant intervention, the YouStart intervention, because it's supposed to bring hope to the youth. And it's not in a lot of places where governments really set out to design these type of intervention and actually follow through. And we have followed through, and I think we have started the implementation of it.
I see. Any further information for the youth to, if they want to contact you, assess funding, is there a specific amount you're giving them?
So as I always say, funding is not the end-all and be-all, as you want me to say.
The money is very important.
Money is. If I ask you right now what you need, you say money. If I ask myself what I need, I'll say I need money.
Right.
But I think that as much as possible, they should engage with institutions such as Ghana Enterprises Agency. We have 210 business advisory offices spread throughout the country in the district assemblies who are there to provide the support and the information. If we don't even, since we've closed the first phase, the second phase will be open for them to really take advantage of.
Kosiyanka, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And over the weekend, hundreds of thousands flooded the streets of Accra as they signaled their support for the former Trade Minister, Alan Kyerematen. We have all that captured for you in this report.
Hundreds of people on the streets of Accra. They are walking with Alan Kyerematen, the gentleman hoping to lead the NPP into the 2024 polls. Well, there are many people here on the streets walking with him today as part of the Edru's health walk here. These people are going to be walking all the way from Obrasport to Manche, Agbona. We'll be walking with them, interacting some of them, finding out from them what they aspire from this particular candidate.
Because, and not just because Adrian is so, but he's a hard-working man. He's a man of his words. He's a man. He's too humble. He loves everybody. Like his gentility, his charisma, his humanity, everything is on point.
As we believe in him, he has done it before and he's doing it now. We believe in him, in his philosophy, his credentials, his abilities. He's a man of competence. He's a man of credibility, character and charisma. He's a man of the people, for the people and by the people.
The latest Economic Intelligence Unit report predicts victory for the opposition NDC in the 2024 general elections due to what it says is the worsening living standards. But some members of the NPP are already dismissing it. Here is Member of Parliament for Tema West, Carlos Ahinkra.
I wonder what the EIU saw or did to arrive at that conclusion. As we speak, let somebody tell me one policy direction that JDM had pronounced in all his, gallivanting, let me say. I'm telling you, if JDM was rather to be on this seat, would have suffered worse than what we are seeing now. Well, who is the EIU report? I believe in my own report.
Former MP for Kwadaso, Dr. Samiu Kwejo Nyama, believes that the report is enough reason Alan Kyerematen must lead the NPP in the 2024 polls.
The trend is that every 8 years we change government. So anybody can sit in the comfort of his or her room and make a prediction. What we are about to do is unprecedented. There's no party that has won power 3 consecutive times. So if they are saying that, yes, it's going to be difficult for us, it is true. And that is why we are saying, even though they are saying it's difficult, even though you and I believe it's going to be difficult, but with the candidacy of Honorable Alan Kyerematen, it's going to be easy.
Aspiring flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Alan Kyerematen says his campaign received overwhelming support across the regions.
Ashanti region for say, IPP delegates, Samudi Ala the Bar, Yabataba Amamo. For region for say. Some of the MPP, Modi Alan
Alan Kyerematen believes he's the strongest candidate to lead the NPP to victory in the 2024 elections.
Masum Abai Masum Ghana mine. And your party no ban Masum. Masum Abai Masum Ghana so. Say Muya Candiphobia. Or what political experience and maturity. Say the Ghana for here, any Obia, Ghana boom.
The ruling New Patriotic Party is set to hold its primaries in November this year to elect a flag bearer and candidates for each constituency ahead of the 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections. Until then, all aspirants have a tough job convincing delegates to vote in their favor. For Joy News, Michael Ashale.
Spokesperson for the Alan campaign, Yao Bwabing and someone joining us here on the Pulse. Thank you. It's been a while. Yes. You've been around the country, of course, trying to woo delegates of the NPP to support the Alan campaign. Is it really working?
I think what we saw last Saturday is a clear signal to the party and the nation at large that there's a difference, there's a game changer in what we are pursuing. And that game changer is Alan Kyerematen.
After the war,
the wisdom is that people are fed up with politics. It's not going too well. We have difficulties around the country, around the world, impacting us heavily. We are going through an unprecedented debt restructuring exercise. This hasn't happened before, and prices are rising very fast. Inflation is extremely high. Matters that, even though many are out of our direct control, tend to impinge on an individual and make that individual think that politics is not helping them. And yet, in spite of that, according to the media, over 300,000 people turned out into the streets.
Not your own data?
I can't sing for myself.
I'm asking that.
I can't be a judge in my own cause.
Because on social media,
the reports that came out.
I'm sure that you've seen some posts by your own party fellows them saying, oh, these numbers were biased. These people, of course, were forced to come out from nowhere to simply carry out an exercise of walking with Alan.
Embarrassing and forced business.
I'm sure you've seen that yourself.
First of all,
you've seen that, correct?
No, I am going to confirm that if you don't have a certain level of organization, you cannot perform. I'm going to confirm that. I live in Adenta.
Right.
I didn't walk to a Brasport. The number of delegates who came from Adenta to join the walk, they didn't walk from Adenta. They had to come by bus. And it is only natural that if you want them to start at 9 a.m., you make sure that they are willing to come and they are organized enough to be in the same place at 9 a.m. If all the individuals decide to come by their own vehicles or come by public transport, the most likely situation is that
traffic
up to about 11 a.m., you still will not have everybody there. So it only makes organizational sense that you organize and help them out of their free will to come. But it doesn't mean that 300,000 people were put in buses. Because the spontaneity of it, there are those who also could choose and have the means, and did have the means, and are interested enough in Alan Kyerematen's candidature to have come there by themselves. So that walk saw nearly 80% participation by delegates.
So it's not a case that, well, you weren't convincing people, forcing them to join for the optics.
It is a choice. The last time I saw people being forced was in Kumawu. The late Baswa's 1 week, where I saw people wearing an opponent's t-shirt and cheering Alan Kyerematen. That clearly shows force.
You're throwing shades to some people.
No, we saw it. It happened. It was in Kumawu. If you go back to the tapes, your social media tapes, YouTube.
Well, I'm yet to see that, by the way. Maybe you provide. Oh, really?
You will find it.
It's all over?
You will find it. I mean, we got there. They were already there. They had their t-shirts on and all that. And yet, everybody came up and swamped Alan Kyerematen.
So what you mean to say is that Alan is the best bet for the NPP now?
That is the signal that has come out now. After going around the country, 16 regions, meeting chiefs, who were very positive. Many of the chiefs insisted that Alan should have been president long ago, and this is his time. You should have the courage to step forward and the boldness to take what belongs to him in order to facilitate change in the country. They gave him brilliant character references. He had the integrity, the dignity, and the knowledge to make a change in Ghana. We met clergy. Everywhere we went, the clergy said that, but for competition, Alan should have been an automatic candidate. But they will pray for him for servant leadership so that he doesn't forget his God. We met the party executive. And these are the executives who are going to be part of the super delegates. Everywhere they listened with rapt attention. And they told Alan that he is the only one who has brought them a coherent analysis of where they sit and where they need to go. We met market women, traders, ordinary people in the streets. And we've gone into markets where they've said that, say, Papa Wena Modene Ba will vote for you. We met media, managers, hosts, reporters of media across the 16 regions. And all of them believed that this is the time for the kind of change and transformation that Alan Kyerematen promises.
When, of course, Alan himself was speaking over the weekend, he talked about the fact that this is the time Ghana needs a leader who has immense experience. What sort of experience was he talking about over the weekend? Relevance,
competence. The relevance of Alan's competence to Ghana's transformation is what he's talking about. His experience first in managing people in terms of political governance. He's been in there this long. He's managed people. His experience in terms of delivering on the mandate that he's been given while serving the government. Okay, and that has culminated in a vision that tallies with our need. Our need now as a country is to transform our economy, diversify and transform in a sustainable manner so we reduce dependence, we break the cycle of export, import, and at least shift a large percentage away to internally generated stuff. So it means that his relevance to the real sector, transforming agriculture is important, transforming manufacturing, industries, all to create jobs is important. So his relevance to the youth who are coming out, as nowadays I say, Kufo let us produce the babies free, Nanadu has educated them free. Now Alan has to give them jobs because 500,000 of them are going to be coming out of the conveyor belt very soon.
Is that an admission that you did not create enough jobs as the NPP?
Yeah, but we haven't created enough jobs. It's a fact. That's why I'm saying Alan is relevant. You asked me his relevance. His relevance is his ability to create jobs. His relevance is in the fact that throughout his professional life, he has been creating jobs.
But this is someone who served as the former Trades and Industry Minister, championed the one district, one factory policy, which he himself told the people of Ghana would create jobs.
Yes, but it hasn't created enough jobs yet. It's a continuing process. Everything he's touched in the government has been about jobs. Go back to his record with Kufo. PSIs, you've heard of the PSIs, right? Presidential Special Initiatives. At the time he was setting up the PSIs, we were in HIPIC. All we could spend money on was 6 classroom blocks and toilet facilities. And then he advised the then president that, look, we need to do something and do it internally. So he brought out 4 products that could diversify from cocoa and add on. You know about starch cassava, and the potential for, cassava starch. 25%. Alan analyzed and identified that 25% of our agricultural base is cassava. How can you not do something with it? Just pan fufu and kokonte. You have to do something. So cassava, he identified. Oil palm. He added an extra 100,000 acres of oil palm to our then existing 20,000. Garments. Look at what I'm wearing. It's standard now. We don't have enough statistics to determine the real import and value of what Alan has added to our economy. Garments alone.
Then, under the presidential special
it's still
initiative.
Here. It's still here. Wait, let me land. Let me land.
Okay, yes,
let me land. And then salt. Today we have private sector people who are heavily into salt and making money and reducing the impact of those products into this. Then fast forward to the current government, where he's strayed again. Did you see the data that was released recently by the government to support the assertion that 2 million jobs had been created?
So all of them attributed to the one district, one factory?
No. The highest sector in that job creation matrix was trade. Nearly 300,000 jobs out of
But the policy
200.
itself, there's no concrete evidence to link that to it.
The policy is only a minor part of what he has done. He has introduced the 10 strategic pillars, one of which is the vehicle assembly and component manufacturing. Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
But you don't mention that. You're only interested in 1D1F.
But you know, because 1D1F was a flagship program of the president, as he told us.
Having brought in 5 of the best car manufacturers worldwide has immense potential to exploit the African free trade continental area, which he brought as well. You understand? Now, when you go to 1D1F, you have nearly 300 factories, 296 in progress. About 160 of them are actually working. The rest are at different stages in the pipeline. The vision of one district, one factory is not to stop at a district. It is designed to lead from the bottom up the transformation of Ghana's real sector. That's what it's designed to do. So over the years, you can have more than one factory in a place. And a place without serious endowment at local level may not have a factory of its own, but have a cluster of factories somewhere. You understand?
Right.
So one district, one factory is designed to organically support communities where there are raw material endowments to produce at an informal level, not these large things, so that you bring in more people, you create outgrower schemes, and you involve the people in their own community economic development for real jobs to come out. Have you heard of the Enable Youth Factories?
Enable Youth Factories?
Yes. You haven't?
No, I haven't heard of it.
So you see Mr. Kyerematen's work.
Right, I see.
Over 50 factories that have been established for processing, which are going to employ youth straight from the universities.
So
to
is
run
this all
and
feeding,
manage.
Yeah. Is this all feeding into the great transformation plan he's talking about?
Yes. Now the Great Transformation Plan is based on 10 strategic areas, and it's all feeding in there, because the transformation plan is a consolidation and a refocus on private sector-led growth. We are too focused on government-led growth. You see, government-led growth tends to result in loans, and the returns are not swift enough in terms of jobs, in terms of income. But when you have private sector-led growth, then you have a government that is focused on enabling the private sector, a slim government that does not do business, the government that facilitates business to do business. And when you have more people doing business, then you generate employment on a sustainable basis.
And this is the question that keeps facing the Alan campaign. If he had all these wonderful ideas about transforming Ghana's economy, why is he not supporting the NPP now to do so?
But he has. Alan has stayed in this government forever.
Yeah, but the results are out there about the NPP and how you've performed.
Oh, please. That's why I'm saying what happened this weekend is a serious signal.
Right.
Ghanaians are not tired of politics. Ghanaians are not tired of the NPP. Ghanaians may be tired of the current NPP government. But if you bring Alan, they will retain the NPP in power. That's the signal we saw this week.
That at least for now you're not performing well.
It's an admission that we are into hard times. It's not about our overall performance. It's about how we organize ourselves and get out of where we are. And I'm saying that Alan contributed his maximum. He waited, we declared for the IMF, he waited, he put in his quota. When they got the staff level agreement, he finally resigned. And why did he resign? It was time. It was simply time for him to go out there, engage, put his machinery in place in order to compete effectively. After all, if he doesn't compete, how is he going to win to lead? And you can't compete from within government.
Right.
You can't compete from within government at his level.
Yeah, but it's beginning to have a toll on his personality and how people should, of course, trust him and take his words seriously. For instance, former President John Mahama, I'm sure you've seen that video, mimic the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, by listing members of the economic management team. And he speaks about Alan Kyerematen being a member An integral member of the economic management team.
That's rich coming from your mama, who chewed the economy to the bone, and then when you stand in parliament, that's rich.
Well, you heard him name Alan Kyerematen.
In politics. I mean, he's our opponent.
So he has some level of blame, some level of responsibility to take, isn't it?
We are going to compare Alan Kyerematen's record to John Mahama's record. And John Mahama's record is nothing to write home about.
Really?
John Mahama, after an economy that Kufuor had set up excellently well, as vice president and head of the economic management team, by the time he gained the presidency in 2012, in circumstances that we don't want to remind ourselves about, he came to Parliament as president and told Parliament that the economy had been chewed to the bone. Who chewed it?
Someone must have chewed it.
Exactly. Was it the MPP in opposition?
Well, no one knows. It could be NPP.
So
it could be NDC as well. It could be both
who
of
chewed
you.
the economy he was inheriting whilst he was head of the economic management team.
I'm not sure who was doing the chewing
By
at the time.
2014, with oil, that Kufuor found and expanded this economy with oil. By 2014, oil drove us at some point to the highest GDP ever. By 2014, he was headed to the IMF. He had collapsed the economy. Growth had plummeted to below 3%. This is not anybody who can tell us any different from what is happening. His only solution to politics is IMF. Now the IMF are here. What else is John going to do? John Mahama's only politics is IMF.
Yeah,
three things.
But you said the private sector, you're going to move away from borrowing, you're going to do more production.
John will tell you that...
was a trade minister, and here are the results.
John will tell you that the economy is bad, you are suffering. It is the NPP's fault. Let's go to the IMF. That's John Mahama.
Okay, aside,
that's all there is.
Okay, but aside John Mahama, there is the EIU now.
Yes.
The Economist Intelligence Unit predicting that you may lose the next election. So if you're even going by your analysis that if you bring Alan, it will still work for the NPP, you may not break the 8 per what EIU is saying.
The EIU report is heavily based on our traditional, almost conventional, I refuse to call it conventional yet. It hasn't run long enough, but our 8-year turnover.
Yeah, but that was not their biggest factor. Their biggest factor was about the economic performance. So yes, precisely.
Yes, but that's where I'm coming to. So you have that as a basis. So where we are starting from, we are the underdogs when you consider that. Then you go forward and you look at the factors they listed. The difficulties of the economy, the DDEP, right?
Yes.
And bad governance.
Right.
John Mahama, who is supposed to be a beneficiary of all that, hasn't put forward one policy to deal with those issues. Moreover, the EIU report is saying that the NDC has a better chance of winning. They say John Mahama is winning. They say the NDC has a better chance of winning if they replace John Mahama. So it's not a benefit for John Mahama. However, the interesting thing in that report is that it mentions Alan Kyerematen. For me, that's a clear signal that they believe Kyerematen will win the NPP primary. Then there is the ace in the hole. If Kyerematen wins, then it means that his plan is on the table. He offers something to Ghana, the Great Transformational Plan. So far, nobody, including John Mahama and his combatants, and others in the NPP, almost 10 of them, nobody has been able to produce a prospective plan, a plan that sets out exactly what he intends to do as president. That will make the difference.
Yeah, but he's not the leader of the opposition yet.
That's what I'm saying, that the EIU report makes me so happy.
Right.
Because it has signaled that.
So you feel it's early days yet for anyone to conclude?
Oh, that John Mahama will win this election.
Well, they are saying NDC, they didn't mention John Mahama.
Exactly, I'm glad because then it means that the NDC is still based on the old 8-year cycle because they haven't produced any responses to the challenges. The EIU report doesn't say that the NDC has any policies to change the problems. It doesn't. So if somebody comes who has policies that can change the problems, then the person becomes attractive straight away. That's the point I'm making, that Kyerematen, the EIU report has shown that Kyerematen is your best bet. Because first, out of the 10 people running, he's the only one they mention. He's the only one they mention. Second, he is that one who has a plan. None of the others has. So if the EIU has a set of problems that Ghanaians are worried about, Ghanaians will want to see a plan that solves those problems. Ghanaians are worried about unemployment. If Kyerematen can solve the unemployment problem from his record of creating jobs, of creating industry captains, of creating structures to create jobs, then they will vote for Kyerematen because they don't vote for voting sake. Ghana has moved beyond voting for voting sake. In the beginning, we used to be afraid that if you voted, they will not transition. The soldiers will still keep their seats. So we voted for them to have their time and go. Then at some point in the middle, we were voting straightly along party lines, NPP, NDC. Now, individuals want quality. Now they've tested both parties. They want to see what they will get out of standing in line. They want to be impacted by the democratic process. How do you impact people?
But
you must give them direction.
You have the first level to cross. That will be the NPP delegates.
Yes, yes.
Are you certain?
Yes. Now, we are aware of the issues with the super delegates conference and the attempts to manage the conference in a way that will favor one of our opponents. But clearly, when the spirit of the party is against something that you are doing, it will collapse. I mean, you can't use incumbency to mismanage the superdelegates conference. The superdelegates conference will be held transparently and fairly. Team Alan for president campaign team, A4P, the campaign team, will ensure that the superdelegates is totally transparent and fair. And that is where we will win. In any event, it's only an administrative process. For those who are assuming that you try and do some funny things and win it by a mile, and then to create a psychological situation going into the larger group. The larger group are already aware. So there's no psychology left to deal with. We are going to win this primary. We will win the super delegates and we'll win the general primary.
If we're wrapping up, if there's anything you would want delegates of the NPP to remember Alan for as they go to the polls, what will be that final message?
That Alan is the one who is going to modernize the party and make it a strong fighting force. Alan appreciates that the party is the mother of government. Alan is the only one who has recognized the fact that if the party is not strong, sooner or later the government will collapse. Now we have a situation where after the party has put the government in power, the government is trying to dictate to the party who should continue. It won't happen. That dictation will destroy our future. So the party will go for the one who will strengthen the party, modernize the party, and give it the technical and financial resources it needs to stand on its feet so that it will represent us continuously all the while. Alan has seen that. That's why he has promised to finance salaries, pensions, and gratuities for party members, and also invest in party activities. And he's going to do all this by making the party competitive in the private sector space. The law allows it. The law says that the party is a legal person that can enter contracts. So Alan will allow the party to enter contracts, generate resources for itself, and become the most powerful party in sub-Saharan Africa, which it deserves to be. And that is the difference between Alan and the others, as far as delegates are concerned. He knows what should be done to make the party different, to modernize the party.
A lot of delegates are watching now. Of course, after the exercise, we'll be back to have a discussion on these promises.
Let me leave you
for joining us.
What's
this? Okay, so this is supposed to be the 10 points agenda of Alan.
Exactly.
We'll dissect this subsequently.
Very well.
But I'm grateful for your time here on the podcast.